So it's the next day now, and this glue has had about 16 to 18 hours to dry, and it's nicely bonded the cardboard to the frame. So now it's time to start constructing the car. So here's the two sides propped up with spray cans and water bottles, and you can see the cardboard template on the inside and the foam on the outside. So kind of there's our skirt below. And here's where I'm going to break away from what I've seen most people doing online, which is to fix a front flat panel to the car like that, and then maybe build up some features here. What I want to do, what few people have done, is to put a point on the front of the car. So I've seen some people online put like a cardboard template across here and then build up cardboard triangles and put like a piece like this on top and slowly build it up. But I want to build it all in one step. So first of all, we have to figure out the width. So the width of this frame is 25 centimeters, and I want to make sure that there's plenty gap on both sides so the frame doesn't interfere with the moving of these pieces. So I'm going to give it a centimeter extra on each side of this frame. So that makes the width of this gap 27 centimeters in my case. And then I want the point, I think about this much will be quite nice, you know, quite aggressive but not too much. So this is 5 centimeters. So this is 27 centimeters across here. And then I marked up the middle line, 5 centimeters, and that gave me my angles. So I'm going to cut out this piece, and then I'm going to make some flat cardboard V shapes to stick on the front, maybe double thickness to give it a bit of rigidity. And then once I've done that, I'm going to glue the whole front end on in one piece. So I'll get that ready now. So here is the finished front end. I cut the triangle out of blue foam and then glued the cardboard on. I gave it a square depth of 1 centimeter to make things easy to work with. And then after the cardboard was glued on, I just trimmed off the end with that hot wire so that when I put it in here, that piece of polystyrene will fit flush with this and the cardboard will go to this corner exactly. There's a bit of a change of plan. Originally my frame was 25 centimeters, and so I gave it 1 centimeter extra, making this piece 27 centimeters long. But when I looked at the width here of 27 centimeters, it didn't feel quite right. So I went and measured him again, and sure enough his shoulders are wider than that. They're about 28.5 centimeters. So I decided to make this total width 30 centimeters, so he's not completely wedged in there. That meant I had to modify my frame, and I didn't want to make the whole thing again, so I just cut it exactly on the middle, on top and the bottom, and then I just stuck 2 pieces on to extend it. So I increased it by 3 centimeters. That's fine, it's still strong enough. So anyway, back to this front piece. What I did is I used 2 pieces of cardboard, and then the inner piece of cardboard is flat, and then on the outer piece of cardboard I made my design. Now this piece sticking out the bottom here, this is going to be removed eventually, but when I'm gluing this all together I want to make sure I've got everything the right height, so I left this piece on, which is the same height as my skirt, and then once it's all glued together with a knife I can cut this piece off. That's why I removed these flaps here, so when I come to cut this piece off it's going to be nice and easy to get to. For the design, I couldn't really think of what to do, and it's getting quite late, so I went with the standard type of design, which is a Camaro. So you have this kind of square piece which has the lights, and then you have this lower grille and the fog lights. It's not exactly the same, as these fog lights should be above this grille, but this made it much easier to cut and shape, and it looks good enough. Now this is shaped in a triangle. So this is 19 centimeters tall, which is the same height as this piece of cardboard, and this is 16 centimeters tall, giving me a drop in the middle of 3 centimeters. So that means when I put the front end on, let's wedge it in place for now. This slope where the bonnet comes down continues down this slope here. If I get the camera down. So once I put the flat piece of the bonnet, it's going to keep on coming down in one nice continual slope. And then after gluing it all together, I can remove this bit of foam here and start to shape it. So now the car is starting to take shape. So I've started gluing the pieces together and now the car is taking shape. First of all, I glued the front end on, gluing down these lines here, and then I cut a piece of cardboard which was 30 centimeters wide as my car, and quite long. It came out to about here, and then once the glue was dry on that piece, this cardboard came out to about here. I trimmed it off following the line of the bonnet, and then I used a bit of sandpaper just to smooth these edges. When I went to the 100 yen store to get that stuff, I saw they had these lights. So it was a pack of 2 for 100 yen. They had white and orange and white and pink. So I thought I'd try these white and orange ones. Not sure what colour I use. Very simply, they just got a little switch and a battery inside. It's just an LED light. So I cut a little window out so I can get to it from the inside and access the switch. And then these will be glued here. Not sure if I'll use the orange or the white. Maybe I'll use the pink red colour on the back. Yeah, so if you can put a few lights on it, it just improves the whole look of the thing. So those will be glued on later. So now the next step is I want to start trimming back this foam and then shaping it along with the bodywork of the car. And then later I need to cut a panel out for his head to come through and make the bonnet. So here it is after cutting off the excess foam, and now it's really starting to take shape as a car. First I used the hot wire tool just to trim off all these pieces, and then I used just a sanding block just to smooth the edges and make them nice and flush. Now this is almost complete in terms of shape, so I can start working on the back piece, and then I can cut out these wheel arches and do the wheels next. So now it's time to start working on the rear end of the car. I've just propped up the side panels temporarily to show the basic idea. These are going to be spaced a little bit wider than the rest of the car, so it gives that kind of fat rear end muscle car look. So let's take this piece out of the way. So the idea is to have one continuous piece of cardboard going all the way over this rear piece, and then eventually we'll have to cut a section out here somewhere so his feet can fit through. So I've already cut the piece of cardboard. This is the back of it, so it'll be like that. I've already bent it in the right places. The back's going to be quite simple. It just has kind of this shape at the bottom, kind of like a rear diffuser, and I'm going to continue using the same circle lights. I think I'll put 2 orange ones on the outside and then the pink ones, which are close to red, in the middle. To hold them in place, I'll put a strip of cardboard underneath this and then glue them to that. So now I'll glue this piece of cardboard onto the frame and then start trimming back the excess foam. So here is the finished rear end piece. I've already trimmed off the excess foam and sanded it smooth. So now I need to start putting the pieces together and then figure out what shape to cut out of here so I can attach it to my frame. So if we put the basic pieces together, there's the back and here is the front, and I've already cut these wheel arches out, so it's starting to look like a car now. And now I want to start fitting my frame, which will tell me how much I need to cut out of the back. And once that's complete, then I can start work on the roof of the car. So now I've attached the frame to the front section by gluing a piece of Velcro here and here on the underside, and made sure that the frame has freedom of movement. I also traced out the frame on the back section, although I made a bit of a mistake, and this line I should have continued straight down instead of tracing around the frame, because the whole point is that when this little protrusion comes up, it's going to be resting on the inside here. So to repair it, I've just glued in 2 pieces of wood, and I'll fill in the top with another piece of cardboard and some sealer, and hopefully I can hide this. So now I need to attach Velcro into this section and here, and then see if I can operate the whole thing as one hinge. So here is the base of the car with the frame Velcroed in at both ends. I had to mess about quite a bit. First of all, these little stubs I left weren't long enough, so I needed to make those longer. And also, because I have this piece of wood here, the stub was previously on top of the frame, so now I had to remake it with the stub on the bottom of the frame. So that's fine, because now I've got this as a single piece and it's stronger anyway. So I remade this whole bottom piece. Then, from the stubs, I Velcroed going around the bottom of the stub and going along the inside curve here of the back piece. So now the idea is that when he stands up and his shoulders are here, this whole top piece will come up independently and it will start to lift up. But it's starting to catch here because this is square and this is quite a tight curve. So what I need to do is I need to trim some out of here and maybe trim a little bit of a curve along here, so that it has freedom of movement so it can pass up. That's fine, it won't be visible because it'll be dark inside and he'll be wearing black trousers. So I need to trim a bit there and then it should start to transform. So I've cut this curved piece out of the front door so that when he goes into the standing position and this comes up, it's going to clear the rear end. Now this hole might look quite big at the moment, but that's because you can see a lot of light coming through. When the costume's finished, the rear wheels are going to be closed, the front wheels are going to be closed, the roof is going to be closed, and that piece at the back is also going to be closed off. So you're not going to see any light coming through, it's going to be black, and he's going to be wearing black trousers and black shoes anyway, so it's going to be quite dark inside, and you really won't notice that there's a gap there. So now that the basic structure is complete, we can start to see how it's going to transform. So let me just zoom out. So what's going to happen is, this part of the frame here is where his shoulders are. So first of all, he's going to get onto his knees. It's going to be like this. Then he's going to stand up, and now this piece becomes free. So this is going to be slightly resting on the back of his legs, and his head is going to come out of the open bonnet here. Then, when he goes back down again, he's already standing and he goes onto his knees. This piece will hit the floor first. Then he's going to crouch down and put his elbows on the floor, head down and go into a crouching position, and it's back into a car shape. So now that the basic structure is complete, I can start sculpting the bodywork and start to get creative. So I've already cut out the bonnet, so I know where the line of my body will be. So with this piece, what I want to do is I want to slope in the top bit here, so it's it swells out towards the wheel arches. And I quite like this aggressive line here, so I will smooth this but not much. I'll keep this quite a fat angle. This one I want to bring in a little bit here, and also I want to curve in the bottom a little bit. For the rear end, this is wider than the front of the car, so to really accentuate the the beefiness of this part, I want to curve this quite a lot, and then also curve it at the top and then curve it round here, so it looks like a really meaty rear end, like it's really swollen out at the back. So I'll start sculpting the bodywork now. This may take quite a while, and then I'll show you when it's done. So the rear piece is done. It didn't take that long to do. Maybe I spent an hour on this piece. So first I made some guidelines, and then I used my hot wire tool to shave off that angle, and then I just used sandpaper to sand it all smooth and blend all the curves together. It's actually quite easy to do, although there's a few little places where I've kind of damaged it, or I need to touch it up later somehow. So yeah, so now it has kind of that that meaty look to it. It kind of juts out. And next step, I need to blend in some of these hard edges, fill in some holes, and then I can start painting it. This foam is quite rough, powdery, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle that yet. I think maybe several layers of latex paint and sanding it in between should be able to fill up those holes. For the front piece, I didn't want to lose this aggressive line. I quite liked it. So all I did was smooth that round a little bit, and then on the sides I made like a fake door by taking out this top piece and a little bit from the bottom, and then just smoothing it round with sandpaper. And I just, with the saw, just made a line here, so it looks like these are two separate pieces, but really it's just one piece. So that's the front section sculpted. So now that the shaping of the body is complete, I can start to think about finishing. So I have a jar of this general purpose putty, and I'm just going along and filling in all these cracks along here, and also I'm filling in these edges where we're hitting the side of the cardboard, because otherwise it would be like this. Then when you paint it, this would get all sloppy and messy. So this gives it a nice clean image, and I'm using putty because it'll be easy to sand afterwards and the paint will stick to it. So I'll go around all of these joins, all of these gaps along here, and fill them all in with putty. Also, I can repair a few damaged spots where I've dented it just through being cat-handed. So yeah, I'll do that now, and then I'll leave it overnight to dry.